Good afternoon and welcome to the latest Wealth of Advice market update on Friday the 3rd of April 2020. Last week we explained that we were going to continue to give you updates from whatever information we'd gathered from various fund managers who manage all of your pension and investment funds. This week we spoke with Janus Henderson and Jupiter Asset Management about the corporate bond funds which they look after for us. They manage around about £15 million of our clients' money between them. Jenna, who runs the Janus Henderson bond fund, said she was particularly pleased that she could see the intervention from central banks and governments is now starting to come through into the financial markets. Liquidity has come back in. And what does liquidity mean? Well, that basically means there is cash flowing through the financial system, and if you've got cash flowing through the financial system, it means the system's unlikely to collapse and the system can continue working. Governments all over the world have said they will do whatever it takes to get us out of this crisis, and that's what's happening now. In 2008, when we had the financial crisis, then governments had never done quantitative easing to the level that it's been done since. So now we've got a 12-year sort of time horizon looking back at what happened and how it happened, and governments are no longer going through this like in the dark, so to speak. They know what the effects of quantitative easing and the other issuance of financial bonds will do. We spoke with Tamar Tamadin, wwho runs the T. Rowe Price US fund. He's based across in Baltimore. Tamar is a healthcare specialist. From previous roles that he's had within the company, he now manages, I think it's around about £30 billion worth of clients' money across in the US. But being a healthcare specialist, he's able to look at what's going on in the US and regions around the world to see which companies are doing well on the back of the financial impetus that's going into it, and which companies also doing well in the healthcare sector especially. He's looking to see how things are panning out in Italy and Spain, and see how the effects of social distancing flattens the curve in respect of the number of deaths and the number of new people getting the illness, and how that's going to affect and what we may then look to see in other parts of the world. So it's really reassuring to know that all of these experts are now focusing their attention to see what's happening in the different sectors, to see where they can make money on clients' investments and avoid investments that will fall in value over the next few months. So we're very reassured after speaking with those fund managers. Tamar also explained, and we're going to see a lot of this in news over the next week or two in the UK especially, the importance of testing. If we can test millions of people, then we can get more people back to work. This is crucial. You saw the health minister yesterday get lots of questions on this, and he said although they've made mistakes over the last few weeks and they admitted that, they are going to sort of spend millions and billions really getting on top of this and get as many people tested as possible. The discussions about treatment and vaccines, I know Donald Trump says they might have a vaccine. All the experts are saying that it's not going to be anything less than 12 months, and this is why social distance and lockdown is going to continue. It's not going to be a short-term measure, and what we have to then sort of see is how the market react in the next few weeks if we're not back to work as quick a time as we previously thought. On last week's update, we were saying Trump was saying the country in America was going to get back to work by Easter. He did an about turn on that on Monday or Tuesday, and that's now being put back. The markets didn't like that, but they didn't crash. And the key thing there is the markets had crashed previously and they'd factored in this already. So although you might have government officials, prime ministers, presidents saying certain things, the market prices things in weeks in advance. So the markets are assuming that we're not going to get back to work anytime soon. Big companies across Europe especially withdrew a lot of the dividends that they were going to pay this week. That upset markets a little bit, but from your point of view, that should be encouraging that some companies are using their cash flow to actually keep the companies afloat, pay people's wages, and they're not just going to be issued out as huge dividends. Another interesting point which Legal & General brought our attention was that government bonds issued in the US were 261 billion during March, and normally they're 98 billion. So that's shown that almost 3 times the usual amount of bonds in issuance came through in March. Some banks are buying bonds, and that therefore puts liquidity into the market. As I said previously, if you have liquidity in the market doesn't collapse and we keep going as normal. Legal & General now believe that bond values are attractive. A few months ago they didn't think they were attractive at all. So again, that's showing that what has been promised to happen and promised to fix the system is working. The next bullet point there is about helicopter money. You might be wondering what helicopter money is. Helicopter money is where governments give money directly to individuals and businesses across the world, and that's starting to happen a lot more. In the UK, I was speaking to someone on Monday who got £10,000 paid into their business bank account as a rebate on their business rates. In the US, individuals are getting $1,200 dropped into their bank accounts, and this provides liquidity gain into not just the financial system but into people's pockets, so people can continue to buy shopping, buy clothes, buy essential items, and keep the economy running that way. And this is going to be a big thing, never seen before all over the world at the same time, where governments are actually giving their individual members of the population money. So you might say this yourself from the furlough payments that are going to happen. Self-employed people are getting money passed to them. So this again is a positive measure to try and get us out of the current situation. Lockdown, I'm sure you're all sick of it by now. Everyone I've spoken to is trying to keep a brave face of it all, but it is getting a bit to the point where you wonder how long this is going to last. The US, one of the biggest economies in the world, really far behind the rest of the world on lockdown. Florida, for instance, is only going on lockdown from today, which really should have happened a long while ago. So therefore, we don't know how long the lockdown is going to take in the US, or how it's going to take for their economy to recover from this, then to get through the worst of it before we see things pick back up. This next slide I showed you last week was the performance of our two main model portfolios and how they had performed during the crisis. The big falls up to the 20th of March, and then there was some bounce back during last week. This week we've gone sideways, down slightly. Risk score 2 is down around about 0.5% over the week. But that coming on the back of the 5% increase the week before, we're still in a more positive position than where we were on March the 20th. And we would expect and hope to see weeks after this just to continue with a slight up and down. We don't want to see any huge falls, obviously, but certain fund managers were saying that the base of market was potentially reached around about the 20th of March. Yes, there might be some bad news stories in the future, but you shouldn't really say the FTSE 100 drop by another 1,000 points below the 5,000, for example, it got to in March. If we keep it around that 5,500 level and hopefully creep back to 6,000, the US market getting back up to say 25,000, then you will see that's when we've come over the worst of it. So we'll keep updating you on this and keep hopefully seeing some positive news come through. A big news area that's being discussed is what's going on in China. I know the US authorities released a statement saying that the Chinese had been lying about their figures and their numbers. Well, that was no real surprise to any of us, but how can we actually gauge what's going on in China? Well, a lot of Chinese companies are effectively like Western companies. KFC, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, they all operate in China on the mainland, and they're reporting that around 95% of their stores are currently back working in full business. We believe production to be up to around about 80 to 90% of normal output, and again, as they come off lockdown, you will see that increase. So if you can get back to normal output within a few months of the worst of this crisis, we've just got to hope that the Western economies in the US can do something similar. So yes, whilst we might not believe what the Chinese government is saying, actual companies and how they operate and can be reported and can be looked at, and we do have confidence that China is getting back to business. Next week, what should we expect? I think testing is going to be the main thing that we're going to see in the news. Everyone's looking to Italy, Spain and France to see how they come. They went on lockdown before us. We're hoping that Italy and Spain through the worst of their sort of infection rate. Yes, the number of deaths in Spain yesterday was the highest it's been, but we're hoping now to see that plateau off, and then we can kind of predict and expect it coming next in the UK. So hopefully everyone watching this stays safe and healthy. In the next few weeks we'll be reporting again what latest updates and news that we have. If anyone needs to get in touch with us, please do so. All our staff are working very hard, all working from home apart from myself, who's coming in the office every day to sort the post out. We've got somebody answering the telephone from afar. She'll take messages, pass them on to me. If anyone needs anything from me, email me. And they also have my mobile number, it's on my business card. Give me a ring, send me a text. But we always want to let you know that we're always here to help and hopefully get through this in a much more positive note eventually. Thank you.